Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Lunch Table Podcast. On today's episode, our third main member, Stephen Jarzaletto, is not here with us. But as for the subject of today's episode, I, your main host, Keegan Williams, and my good friend Liam Joshems will be presenting our world history projects. We decided to do this all in one episode because collectively we have no clue what else to do for our debut episode. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy your lunch.
Could have just done. So, courtesy to our world history teachers, they are for some reason making us do this project. At the end of the year, we have 3 days of school left. But we were forced to pick two things in history that was not U.S. history or anything we picked this year. So, me and my good friend, Mr. Keegan Williams, decided to pick some topics. I picked the Second Punic War because it's just the superior of the history of Rome. There are many causes to this war, such as the end of the First Punic War. These fools, they had to Carthage. They lost. They had to pay lots of money that they didn't have to Rome.
Mm-hmm.
They lost most of their islands. They had their territories reduced, and they could not expand without Rome had to say yes.
So what you're saying is they had a lot of struggle keeping all their stuff after the end of the First Punic War.
And not to mention, between the First and Second Punic Wars, all of their mercenaries that they hired to help fight the Romans revolted, which started in the Mercenary War. But thanks to a good friend of ours, Hamilcar Barca, leader of the armies of Carthage, he sorted that thing out and took his son Hannibal into Spain, set up some silver mines, gain some territory, fight some people, and try to pay back Rome.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. But secretly, it was so that they could reignite a second war and try to beat Rome, because they were still angry.
Mm-hmm.
So, he sets up a place in Spain. Hamilcar, unfortunately, does die in battle, fighting off, some native people in Spain. Which is, it was unfortunate, leaving, I think it was about 26-year-old Hannibal to, leave the army. Before Hamilcar died, though, he had his son swear to never be a friend of Rome and to enact their vengeance upon them for their embarrassments in the First War.
Yeah, that's a bit of something to just kind of pawn off on somebody like that.
Especially as a child.
Yeah,
this guy was a child of war. Many battle scars.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I'm dead. Here you go.
The responsibility of our entire army. So, eventually they established their area in Spain. And they had a treaty with Rome, so everything south of the Arabo River was Carthage's to control, which is essentially what Spain is today, was all that Carthaginian area. And everything north of that was Roman influence, they could do what they wanted. But there was one discrepancy in this. A city about 20 miles south of the border, named Saguntum, had become great allies with Rome after Rome helped it with some internal dispute that I don't know what it was. I didn't bother to look it up. And so, seeing this as, a violation of their treaty, Hannibal went and sacked the entire city and murdered everyone. Now, one of the consuls of this time, Scipio the Older, he saw this, and he also saw that Hannibal was getting ready to move into Italy and attack on the Roman heartland. Which, that's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one had ever invaded Rome before. They were untouchable in that aspect.
So that's a tall task.
And here he was trying to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Scipio, he tried to race back, go back to Rome, warn them. Hannibal, meanwhile, had, started to invade Italy from the north, which resulted in the first battle of the war, the Battle of Ticinus, the official start between the fighting of Roman and Carthaginian troops. But before we need to move on to that, I need to establish some people, because there's quite a lot of major leaders in this battle. First up, we have Hannibal, the main man of the Carthaginian army, like one of the best military strategists of all time, hands down. We have his father, Hamilcar Barca, who's the former leader of the Carthaginian military. We have good old Consul Cornelius Scipio, father of Scipio Africanus, and leader of the Roman army during the Battle of Ticinus, and a little bit during Trebia, before ultimately suffering fatal wounds and getting lost. We have Scipio Africanus, hero of Rome, leader of the Roman troops during the Battle of Zama, and the only general who defeated Hannibal in combat. Even though Hannibal was at a great disadvantage, it was never a fair fight.
Hmm.
We have many other consuls, because Rome likes to be all fancy and crap. Every year they have 2 new leaders, like the U.S. president, but even more complicated.
Yeah.
So over the course of this, we had about 4 sets of consuls.
Yeah.
Now the second ones that matter, we have Consul Sempronius Longus, who was he was a dude. He did stuff such as he led the Roman troops. I believe it was in the Battle of the Trebia River, which is like the second thing that happened after Ticinus. Once again beat Carthage or beat Roman. Rome sucks. Bad.
Boo!
Boo Rome.
Rome?
There was
Boo!
a bunch of other guys. I'm gonna list them off because they're all leaders. They all fought and they all got their asses kicked. Because they suck. They're bad. They're losers. So we have Consul Gaius Flaminius during Lake Trasimene, Consul Gaius Vero, one of the Roman leaders during the Battle of Cannae, and Consul Lucius Paulus, the other Roman consul during the Battle of Cannae. But we do have one more character in the story. He's a minor character. He doesn't get talked about that much. Hasdrubal Barca, the younger brother of Hannibal, and helped to many of his endeavors in his attack on Rome.
Mm-hmm. Now, hear me out. Hear me out, Liam.
Yes.
Rome? Boo!
Yeah.
But...
Yes. If only.
If only. Yep. There is no but. Rome is
Yeah.
just garbage for...
Yeah, they kind of sucked.
Yeah.
They killed my main man, Jesus.
Yeah, they did indeed.
Yeah. Boo, that one guy.
Boo!
Anyway.
Wait, that... Wasn't that...
Judas, but also...
Judas, but also Pontius Pilate.
That,
but also...
Pontius Pilate.
Yeah.
Anyway, back on topic. We have many events. Now, the first one is Hannibal's crossing of the Alps, which is one of the greatest feats in our time. Because he led 90,000 men, which, are not... They live in Africa. That's hot. Through the freezing cold of the Alps. Fighting off many local Celtic tribesmen and surviving the harsh elements, We had fights. Men fell off the sides of the icy cliffs. We had starvation. Men fell off the side of icy cliffs. And, when they were almost there, a bridge collapsed, and they spent 3 days repairing it. And they suffered many losses. But by the time that they got out and into Alpine Gaul, in the northern part of Italy, by Switzerland, he had about 26,000 men and 18 elephants. But it was enough to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So they could do damage. Which they did in the first battle, the Battle of Ticinus. After Hannibal crossed into Alpine Gaul, he ran around the local tribespeople, trying to convince them to join them, because he needed to resupply his 90,000 men.
Yeah.
All those people died. And so he started off with massacring the nearest tribe, showing his other, hey, you should not fear Rome. I am the one who's going to screw you over if you do not help me.
Mm-hmm.
So he set up this little fighting tournament with his men and some of the Celtic warriors, and this is you. If you win, you get all the stuff. If you don't win, you die. With all a giant metaphor.
If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight. Sun Tzu said that.
So Scipio, it took about the same time for him to get back to Rome as it did for Hannibal to cross the Alps. He gets there, and they encounter each other. And so they fight. They have that battle. And like I said, Scipio, he gets injured. He's out for a while. He can't really do much. Which leads to the next battle, the Battle of the Trebia. He's injured. During times of conflict, the leadership of Roman armies would alternate between 2 consuls each day. But, because Scipio is injured, it probably resulted with Consul Longus having even more control than he normally would. So Consul Longus would tell his men, hey, go attack them. And then Scipio would say, hey, don't do that. I fought them before. We're gonna die.
And then they fought them anyway, and they died, I assume.
Well, we're gonna get to that part. Because, it's Hannibal. He does some stuff.
Yeah.
So Hannibal knew this. He knew that Longus was a hothead. He could get angered easily and was, probably easy to provoke. Because, he had Celtic spies in the Roman camps. Because, he planned this out.
Red spies in the base.
Red spies in the base. And so he knew that on the day Longus would leave, he would probably try to attack them. So, the night before, he had his men, they're well fed, go to bed early so we can rest and we're going to fight tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
In the night, he sent his brother, Hasdrubal, which I mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
take a small group of men, go hide behind some bushes until the morning, wait for an ambush.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent out his far superior Numidian cavalry, which, massively trumped Rome. Rome did not have a cavalry. They kind of suck.
Mm-hmm.
They thought it, to be weak and cowardly to not fight in normal combat and use tactics, because Rome is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So he sent out his cavalry to go out to the Roman camp and taunt the shit out of Longus, which pissed him off. He woke up all of his troops, who were unwell, unfed, unrested, and freezing cold, and they trudged him through, the river, the freezing cold river, because it's with the winter time.
But of course.
Excuse me, it's winter time right now, because this guy is clearly smart.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the Carthaginian camp, Hannibal was just waking his men up. They're well rested. They got food in their system. They had more food. They feasted.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of that feast, they lathered themselves in this insulated oil so they wouldn't be cold. And so, along this, they finally arrive. They get absolutely slaughtered because they're not in a condition of fact. They're cold. They're exhausted. They're on the brink of collapse anyway. So it's a massacre. We have the Numidian attack from behind, the ambush on the bushes. They're destroyed. Longus dies.
Mm-hmm.
Scipio does survive though, because he is IRL plot runner. Afterwards, Hannibal, his mission to move south and attack Rome, defeat Rome, in hopes to get his vengeance and whatnot. But there were two new consuls at this point. We have Consul Gaius Flaminius and some other guy who I forgot the name of because he doesn't really matter. He's not in any conflict. So in order to avoid this, because he has to cross more mountains. Italy's full of mountains, and so the other two consuls, they knew this, and so they positioned themselves at the two most likely spots. Hannibal, also knowing this, decided, what, I'm gonna cross in this third area, which no one else would ever do, because it's at marshland. Which you know how marshland. You watch Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Not a good time. And so 4 days and 3 nights of walking later, everyone knew they're tired, they're ticked off. No one's having a good time, especially his Celtic warriors.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the brink of collapse by the end of it. Hannibal does get an eye infection. After normally it's treatable. You rinse it out with water, but they're in a marshland. There is no clean water.
Yep.
He has an awesome eye patch, for the rest of the war. He's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
He looks awesome at that. But he did successfully avoid a giant conflict and a possible ambush, resulting to them being free in the Roman countryside. His Celtic warriors could go bananas and raid all they want, because Celtic warriors, they love raiding.
Yep.
They're essentially Vikings, but better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't say that. They're different versions of Vikings, equally spicy and cool.
Spicy.
Flaminius, seeing this from his spot, thought it was his responsibility to go protect the people of Rome's countryside, and he chases Hannibal's group into Lake Trasimene, which is where the next conflict will take place, because they encamp each other from opposite sides of the lake. Flaminius thinking, hey, I'm gonna use the next morning, I'm gonna ambush them. Got that morning fog. We're gonna wipe them out. But Hannibal, well adept at reading the Roman mind, knows that Flaminius, he's also a hothead, and so in the fog of night, completely night covered, you can't see a thing. There's total silence. Most of his best men, and they sneak around. They're on the nearby hillside because you got like some out here and then the rest of the tree side.
Yeah.
All Romans pass. So in the morning, Flaminius, they wake their guys up and they think, hey, got morning fog. We're gonna cross them. They're screwed. They get about halfway there, and they hear the most devastating sound you could possibly hear in a scary environment: the fog, the horns of war.
Mm-hmm.
And they are completely ambushed. They begin to get slaughtered. Like Eupheminius gets murdered by a local Celts warrior. You know, seeing him, you know, because he sticks out and they got that console tower, they're all fancy and gold.
Yeah.
Sees this, and you know, shoves a spear through his head. You know, because you know the Celts, they're pissed at Rome.
You gotta
for,
show off a little too. Yeah.
Practically enslaving all the Celtic warriors.
Oh yeah.
Southbound gold. Rome sucks, like I've said. The rest of the Romans, you know, they were pushed into the lake where they were drowned and murdered. As it resulted in the capture of about 10,000 men, and the result of the death of about 20,000 men. The lake, Jesus Christ, the lake was blood red, and there's estimated about like 42,000 gallons of blood were spilled that day.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
quite a lot.
lovely.
So among the survivor prisoners, you know, they massacred only the Romans. Any other tribes people and you know Celtic people they found working, you know, alongside them, he let go. Because, you know, Hannibal wants to prove his point that I'm just here to kick Rome's ass. Y'all are chill. Y'all can go. And just try to prove his point, you know, make Rome seem like, hey, we're screwed.
Yeah. You should join the Empire, yo. It's pretty chill.
Chill, dog. And this does result in, you know, Rome finally seeing that Hannibal is a crisis. And during times of crisis, you know, Rome likes to do this thing. They did it with Julius Caesar. They probably do it with other people. They, you know, people called a dictator, which is where we get the word from, actually, from Romans. You know, we get a lot of stuff from them. Like the Colosseum is pretty cool. Not anymore, because it's been trashed, because people suck. But it used to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so we have a consul, a good man, a great man named Fabius Maximus, inventor of the Fabian strategy, something we still use today. Which, you know, essentially the act of, you know, not engaging my enemy, and so eventually they lose other resources, and, you know, they are forced to surrender. Which is what Fabius tries to do to Hannibal. Because he knows constant engagement with Hannibal is bleeding Rome dry. They're losing a lot of men. And so see, he tries to avoid conflict in the hope that Hannibal would gradually become weaker and weaker, or Rome could gradually, you know, become stronger. You know, because this guy was smart.
Yeah.
The Roman senator, the council, were not smart. They hated this. You know, because Rome, like the thing is, they're go-getters. You know, they want to go fight. They want to go. They want to win. And they're ambitious. And so, you know, they're kind of pissed at this. But, you know, he does it for a while. Eventually, Hannibal did bait the men into a trap. Because, you know, they're like a little valley, you know. Fabius had all sides capped out. You know, hey, you know what? You can finally fight now. Good job. You know, the Roman senators were kind of pleased. So Hannibal tied a bunch of torches to a bunch of ox. You know, so the Romans thought that were the army. They went to go attack them, realizing they were ox, and they were ambushed. And, you know, a bunch more Romans dead. You know, Hannibal's expertise, and they escaped. Which, you know, about that time, Fabius's, you know, his term is over. The Roman senators could not be more happy. You know, this guy did nothing. He sucked. You suck! He was, you know, inconsistent. He did nothing. He's like most of the kids in our grade. They just sit around and just laze. That's how the Romans thought it. And, you know, Hannibal got ready for the fourth and one of the biggest battles of land battles in human history, the Battle of Cannae. Which was, you know, resulted Hannibal, you know, his group of about 20,000 men versus a Roman legion, which had managed to roster about 80,000 men. You know, he manages to win this because his superior cavalry, his superior tactics, his superior strategies, all these little advantages. You know, like choosing the battle of the land. You know, making sure, hey, the dust is falling into their eyes and not towards us. You know, all these little advantages he uses in every battle. You know, he can win. He's smart like that.
Yeah, you gotta factor in everything.
Every single little small advantages, you know, like...
Perfect.
Like...
Perfect.
Yes.
Down to the last minute details.
And so, he also he arranged his army in, like, an outward bulge. So, like, his army looked like this, while the Roman, you know, they were square. So that they would engage, you know. Hannibal's weakest troops were sent at the point, so then they would engage first. And the bulge would slowly toward inward on itself. So, you know, kind of like surrounding the Roman people with his very best people on the edges. So they'd be like no fighting done, they could massacre them. But before that could happen, Hannibal's cavalry had to win against the others, which they successfully did, successfully chasing off Consul Vero and killing him,
Mm-hmm.
with Consul Paulus, the other consul, moving into the center to try to keep the battle going. Eventually, Hannibal's center did cave a little bit, resulting in some of Carthaginians trying to flee. And so while they tried to do that, the Romans tried to massacre them, which resulted in their formations just dissolving, which made it even easier for them to surround them. And they're veterans, the best warriors, having done no fighting, easily could just start hacking. And to top it all off, the Numidian cavalry came back and just completely encircled them. The best thing a military strategy could hope for. The complete encirclement of a giant army by a much smaller army. And they began to massacre them.
Beautiful.
They were so packed, they couldn't even raise their arms to defend themselves because they were just so jam-packed in. This, resulting, both consuls died, as well as about 80 Roman senators met their end. This was the genius of Hannibal. He'd done it. He had gotten vengeance over like a fifth of the male Roman population, ages 20 to 80, were dead. Like Rome was not doing good, which had resulted in the secession of lots of southern Italy. They feared Hannibal, and they were, to be honest, kind of sick of Rome. No one liked Rome until they joined Hannibal's side. Try to really make sure that Rome felt like they were screwed. And it worked. Until one Scipio Africanus, son of Scipio the Older, which we mentioned earlier, at a nearby survivors' camp of Cannae, said that I will cut down any man that will abandon Rome in its time of need. And he invaded Africa. He actually went to the Carthaginian heartland. Something, Rome didn't think to do the entire war, because they're idiots. And, actually managed to kill Hannibal's brother. And, they took a small town. Or, the big battle, the Battle of Zama would happen. Hannibal was recalled from Italy, to deal with, hey, we're Carthage, we're your people, we're getting hacked. But on their way back, Hannibal lost quite a lot of men, and almost all of his cavalry. Hannibal was not looking good, while Rome had amassed a large army. Even though they had a lack of men, they enlisted slaves and criminals and underage people, as many people as they could, because they needed to win at this point. And so, with Scipio, he had every single thing. He had more men. He had better cavalry. He had trained men. He could choose where the battle would take place. Hannibal, he didn't. At this point, he lost a lot of men. He had only about 18,000 actual veterans left. And he had to enlist a bunch of untrained, midgets, essentially, from Carthage. And he lost a lot of elephants. So he had 40 untrained elephants. They can't really do much. Light flickered there. Couldn't do anything about the location of the battle either. So every single advantage, Hannibal knew this. He tried to negotiate, a peace that, hey, stop now, or yes.
Yes, the negotiator.
But Scipio refused, saying that you are the one that broke the treaty of our first war. You started this conflict. You cannot escape this now. And so the next day, they were in true battle. Started with, Hannibal. He had his line of 4 lines, essentially. He had the lines of elephant, the 2 lines of untrained people, and the very last line is his veterans. Whereas Scipio, he had all his men in like small, maneuverable manifolds, like groups of men, like all dots they could move around. So Hannibal had his elephants charged, but because they were untrained and Scipio had his manifolds, the elephants did like nothing and were quickly either dispersed or murdered, which led for the cavalry battle to happen. With mostly untrained cavalry, Hannibal lost that as well, and they were chased off. Which finally resulted in, the big part of, most battles in this time, the people battle. With his manifolds smashing down into Hannibal's 2 lines of untrained men. Which, was smart. Because by the time that they defeat the first 2 lines, the Roman armies were kind of tired. They were exhausted at that point, fighting. Which, Hannibal's, well-trained veterans could start, slaughtering. Which would have probably worked decently well if the cavalry hadn't returned and smashed down on Hannibal's army from the other side. Which resulted in about 20,000 men dying. About only 1,500 Romans dead. So against all odds, even though most of Rome's population was murdered, they defeated time and time again. Rome won. As Carthage suing for peace, realizing that it could not fight anymore. Kind of like the end of the first one, to be honest. Both sides not doing well, Rome just barely being able to make it further. So, in the peace treaty, I thought there was something else. That was your cat for a second. In the peace treaty, Carthage had to pay 10,000 silver talents, which is a lot of money. Had to lose most of their warships, and restricted their expansion even further, as well as taking all of their land in Spain, which kind of sucked because that's where most of their money came from.
Oh.
Because they couldn't trade either anymore because all their ships got destroyed or taken from the first 2 wars. Hannibal actually chose to leave Carthage for a while. He was voluntary exile, because he felt that he failed his father's quest for him to take vengeance against Rome. Which he kind of did, but then again, 1/5 of an entire population of fighting men. That's pretty good, especially for 20,000 men fighting.
Yeah.
Which, that's not bad. But he did decide to come back and help Carthage in a rebuild in his time of defeat. Battle of Zama was the most decisive battle in the war. As led to the last battle and the result of victory. And because of this war, this was one of the most important wars in history. And I say this because if this war never happened, Rome would likely have not realized that it likes to conquer things, a lot. And knowing that it could take over Africa, led to the result of Rome taking over most of the Mediterranean. Along with the Third Punic War about 50 years later, resulting in the complete destruction of Carthage. Which, kind of sad, after all that they lost. And, Rome finally realizing its dream of conquering the Mediterranean.
Alrighty, I suppose it's time for my presentation then. I mean, there's no way to listen to this other than audio, but for those of you who have some context, I was sitting down for that entire time. It's currently Liam's turn in the hot seat.
I've been standing for an hour. My legs
even though, for presentation purposes, it's more like I'm in the hot seat, even though I'm the one standing. Doesn't really
they can't even see us. They're seeing our beautiful Lego dioramas they built.
Yes, precisely.
Yes.
Well, for my presentation, I have chosen the Black Death. And as you may know beforehand, this...
A bunch of rats kill a bunch of people.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't really the rats, though. I mean, the fleas were infected. The fleas were on the rats, and then the rats got onto people's trade carts.
Rats make me crazy.
And spread along trade routes, essentially making people crazy. So, yeah, there's that. But,
plague doctors, too. It's pretty cool.
Besides that, though, the disease itself, in the way it spread, had a 16 to 90% lethality rate. Most people who contracted it died between 3 and 7 days of being sick. So not only do you have a 60 to 90% chance of death, you only get less than a week after becoming sick.
Don't you get black spots all over you too?
Yeah, the main symptom was, the main symptoms included black patches or different sores all over the body, as well as coughing or vomiting blood, and
that's not good.
Yeah, many other not good things.
Lego blood.
Probably did not find, but yes, in this case, Lego blood.
Oh, hold on, we can't say blood. That's not family friendly. This is going to be a family friendly episode.
Strawberry jam.
They're vomiting
Would
that.
you believe me if I told you it was boat nectar? How about strawberry milkshake?
Perhaps even some tomato juice.
Fine, it's the elderly couple from 2B. They were stealing all the crescent rolls.
Don't we still have the plague today? The thing still around?
I forget if I saw this on one of my research parts, but I thought there were 4 to 5 worldwide cases each year yet. So,
damn.
Yes, the plague is still with us.
That's not good.
But yeah, even back then, from 1347 to 1351, the plague killed up to 2/3 of Europe's population entirely. And that's just Europe alone. There is not a documented number of deaths in Asia, but the original outbreak of the sickness was in both continents. It mainly, the outbreak spread along the Silk Road, which is an ancient trade route. I mean, the trade route itself, the Silk Road, was over 1,000 years old back then. I mean,
a fun fact about the Silk Road, during colonization, the Dutch took that over and they controlled it for a while.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, colonization. I wish we could undo that. So many terrible things happened.
Oh yeah. I mean, if colonization didn't exist, America wouldn't exist.
Can we unrape Africa?
I don't think we can, Leo.
Damn.
I don't think we can. But yeah, the majority of the plague lasted till about the 1700s. I mean,
I did not know that.
Yeah, the huge bout of the plague lasted till either the 17th century or the 1700s. I still get it mixed up, but yeah,
That's genuinely surprised me.
Oh yeah, and that wasn't even it. There was a second epidemic of the same sickness. So yeah, the Black Death got around too, which was from 1517 to 1570.
Kind of like all the COVID variants, but in not that much time.
53 years. The first wave of the second part was back in Europe, and the second and third were mostly in Egypt and the Ottoman Empire, all the way to, I believe it was Istanbul.
I love those Ottomans.
So,
nah, bro, you talking about Constantinople right there.
Constantinople.
Istanbul and the Constantinople.
Nope.
Nah, Istanbul and the Constantinople. Long time gone, Constantinople. Where did Constantinople get the works?
Okay.
I love that song.
That song is really good.
You ever listen to any of the other songs?
I really should.
That's a really good artist. I love those guys.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but during the second outbreak,
shout out, They Might Be Giants.
There was like a huge amount of trade routes that opened up that weren't just the Silk Road. Like there was a whole bunch of other major trade routes going through Europe and Asia and all of those other places. So there were way more pathways for the sickness to spread the second time around. So it was
like
way
Sins of
easier
Napoleon,
for it to
finally
get
being
places.
able to get to Zanzibar.
Exactly, and that's how it was easier to get to Constantinople.
You waiting in Istanbul.
And Istanbul, but you know what I mean. Well, I mean, you can't talk about the plague without talking about plague doctors.
Love those guys.
So,
I want to dress up as one a couple years from now.
Plague doctors were actually trained care physicians. They weren't just like randos, but they were trained caring physicians hired by the governments to treat patients during the main epidemics.
Wait, hold on. Wouldn't the Black Death just be the pestilence?
I mean, yeah.
Which we've cured. So
have.
technically we've cured the pestilence.
Mm-hmm. Well, plague doctors were care physicians hired by the government to treat patients during all sorts of epidemics. Namely the Black Death, but that wasn't it.
That's where they got their debut.
Yeah. And they had contracts from the government that told what people to treat, and even people who couldn't pay them in return. They were contracted to treat anyone who was sick.
Finally, a government actually helping
And
its
they
people.
were doing that because the main local doctors were mainly they were too petty to get sick, but also because they were actually local and available care physicians that were needed for things that weren't major, dangerous sickness.
These cars are loud. That's the fourth time that guy's gone by.
Makes me think of South Park. But yeah, on top of plague doctors, a lot of early accusations of witchcraft popped up during the bubonic plague, actually.
Oh, good old witchcraft.
Yeah. Mainly because minorities like witches, Jews, and gypsies were blamed for most of the plague.
I'm sorry, what was that? What was that second to last one?
Gypsies?
No, the one before that.
Yeah.
What was that?
Witches.
No, the one between those two.
I said witches.
You said
gypsies,
three
and
things.
Jews.
Motherfucker.
Yes.
My
Jewish-
people!
Yeah, I know, Liam. Jewish people were blamed for a lot of things in Europe. But
I hate Europe.
originally, they were blamed for the bubonic plague, among other things. But witches took the majority of it because they were believed to be associated with Satan. And the Black Death itself was at first believed to be a punishment from God. So
Well, maybe it was.
it lines up most historically that witches gained the front of the blame for it. I mean,
Deserved.
in the blame game called the 1300s, because, you know,
The people-
everyone's uninformed and untrained, so...
And
you know.
everyone else hates everyone else if they're different.
Oh, absolutely.
Why are people like this? Why do people suck?
I don't know, Liam. But, I mean... Yeah, I would say it's gotten better, but it really hasn't, so...
The Black Death got better, but not people being people.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not bad.
But yeah, the main thing that I found out while I was researching this is that because a lot of women own cats, or a lot of women that were accused of being witches owned cats at the time, and because of this, they were typically, the cats would eat the rats and other rodents carrying the plague, and therefore the women wouldn't get sick. And so these women were accused of being witches because they weren't getting sick from the plague. That's coconut.
I don't give a shit. I've been eating pina colada gum. It's good. I love pina colada.
Okay. Yes, Liam, I see you found my pina colada icebreakers.
Someone else on the day of service gave me pina colada gum, and I've just been kind of munching on that. Because it's good. It tastes good.
Mm.
It also doesn't have enough coconut to kill me.
Oh, how lovely.
Does it have coconut in it?
Probably.
It does not.
Oh. Well, then you won't die.
Yay!
No, don't eat the container. You're not a turtle.
Num plastic straws.
Okay, that's mean.
Tasty,
That's
tasty.
mean, I shouldn't say that. But, yeah.
Tell me you never munched on a nice plastic straw from Denny's?
I mean, I have munched on a plastic straw before, but that's beside the
Specifically
point.
from Denny's.
No. I've only been to, like, 2 different Denny's
Same.
before.
Anyway, we should continue. This is getting off topic. Nice filler, though.
Yeah. Plague doctors, actually, back to plague doctors for a moment, they were still, they were recommissioned back in the 1500s for the second wave of the plague. They did stick around until then, so we had plague doctors for a good large number of years.
That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I did not know that.
But yeah, they stuck around for a while.
Well, there.
Okay. I don't know, I kind of wish Steven was here so he could do his.
Yeah, we could have another bit.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, our fellow member is not here.
Yeah.
Does that conclude your section?
Yeah, that concludes my session. I mean, I've got my stuff down.
As did I.
But, yeah.
Well, this is the end of the school year, and we do have about another minute and 15 seconds of run time till we get to 40. So, we'll just talk.
I mean, yeah, I'm good.
This
I
is
mean-
the debut episode of our podcast, The Lunch Table, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see this being the start of something pretty
This
cool.
could become, more professional in the future. We have an actual set, actual camera,
Yeah, maybe an actual lunch table. I mean, who knows?
more people, because
But,
this is
yeah.
we're doing this purely as a project for our classroom. But,
After-
double as a start, to a podcast,
But yeah, as soon as we actually get an episode with all 3 of our main members, we may invite a guest to come join us at some point.
Jonas.
Yeah, the more reputable we get, the more guests we may invite. But
Invite our man Jonas for his episode.
yeah, Jonas needs his episode in. I mean, he probably forgot all about that, but
Mhm.
yeah, we still have him on our guest list.
His
So,
stupid forced join of his religion. I didn't want to be part of it.
yeah, that was.
Well, we have 15 seconds left.
Well, yeah. I mean, thanks probably only our world history teachers for looking at this. But yeah, it was a
Hope
great.
y'all have a good summer.
Yeah.
Sorry if it takes so long.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry for making you sit through 40 minutes, but good time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Can we do a final, like, actual exam next time? I don't like this.